seeing y'all again. So obviously I did the same 2 assignments, which was research and then kind of going over that SWOT analysis. So first off, going into the park, you need to know the history. So I first did just some background history of Eupora itself. It used to be called Early Grove way back in the days until Eupora UD just showed the town her just generosity and southern charm, so they ended up naming the town Eupora. We also had, in 1966, the 8.23 acre park was sold for $2,700 to Mr. Brantley, as well as having in 1966 the mule train coming through as well, which is a huge historical aspect of the city. I then also went into the demographics of how large is the city about, what are the different demographics, just so we could see how large this space really needed to be. There's around 2,018 people the last time I checked, with 55.06% of the population being white, 41.9% being African American, 1.87 being 2 or more races, 1.13 being Asian, and 0.05 being of other races. And then also just dove a little bit into the culture. Obviously the South has their own little Southern charm. There's a lot of cookouts, arts festivals, and outdoor concerts. And then I also went into the climate because, let me tell you, it's always changing as we know. So I kind of just went through and decided and did my research on what kind of months had different effects. So looking through, the hottest and wettest month would be July. The month with the most sunshine is June. The driest month is November, and the coldest month is January, which I know we don't all love January. I then also thought about back when we had our meeting last time, and thought about the priorities y'all set, as well as looking at the 3 charts that were around the room last time. I just kind of picked out all the ones with the most importance, as well as just going through my notes of what y'all said was important to you. Going through the site as well from what we saw, y'all know it by now, so I'm not going to go too into it. But going through, I just saw what was the major stopping points, what could be a noise issue such as the school during the playground, and also just see what we had. I took a lot of pictures during our site visit, so I could go back and reference whether it's the topography, the vegetation, or just the land itself. A lot of notable things was the one tall tree standing by itself in the middle of the site. There was also a section of the park that does go right up to a residence area, so that's something to take into account, as well as just having a view from the top parking lot area to show more of that site and more of the park itself. Now going into the SWOT analysis, like I said before, there's a lot of priorities, and there's a lot of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to the park. But I'm not going to sit here and give you all a list, so I decided to pick 4 top ones within my list, so I could just give a quick visual, and it's just a little easier to understand. Going into my strengths, first there's a creek, which gives obviously a lot of opportunities, but it's good to have a waterway within the park because there is a lot you can do with it. There's also a school, which could bring a lot of people over. It could be a good place for the school to utilize. And usually school zones are pretty much safer and usually have a slower speed limit, so that's an advantage. There's also neighborhoods nearby which can do the same of bringing those people in, creating a sense of community. And the site is mostly clear at this point, which is really good. We do have the basketball courts in there already that are ADA, so that's really good that we have room to play around with. Next, to go on to weaknesses, there is a lack of shade. With the new addition of those basketball courts, there's a little bit of shade with some seating, but it's not adequate on a hot, hot summer day, so we can always be adding to that. There is also a lack of signage, and when going to the other parks, we did get to see some examples of the signage y'all have in Eupora and being able to pull from those different aspects. There's also parking, but not a parking lot. We have right here in picture E, which comes right here to the parking lot. It's kind of dirt and gravel. It has rocks. It's not necessarily the safest for somebody using a mobility aid, so that's something that could also be looked upon. And community, there's not a lot of community access as of right now. There's only one entrance, so that's also something that could be grown upon. Opportunities. Now we get to the priorities, y'all. First, a pool, having a public access pool with a really low rate so everyone can socially be able to go, communicate, have fun, take some time to relax out of your day. Also, some sports programs will have a lot of opportunities at this park because there is a lot of space and the town should have some more priority for that. Also, a storm shelter, I promise. We all want to be safe, and this would be a good way to just have extra multi-use spaces as well as keeping others safe. And then a picnic area with a pavilion could be really nice to get people outdoors, get the kids outdoors, the family, sit down, eat, and have a space if you want to throw a little party. And then there are some threats. First off, we do have speeding cars, even though, like I mentioned, it is a school zone. Sometimes people don't adhere to the speed limit. There is a major road right here that goes through next to the park and the elementary school. So sometimes people do speed, like y'all said. There is a speed bump, but people just go around it. So kind of ways we can also figure that out. There's barbed wire right on the lining of the school, which y'all know kids, they could be jumping, climbing things. We just want to make sure it's always safe. Sometimes there's a drought, as of when we went to the site last time. The creek was in a little bit of a drought. It was dried up. You couldn't see much water flow. That could be a threat to the site with cracking and everything. And then storms. Like I said, y'all, I know the storms are bad. They get crazy, they get good, and then it gets bad. So that's just a real big threat to the site. Now going through, I've done some adjacency and bubble diagramming to kind of show where my head has been at and show y'all some of the opportunities we can do. First, making kind of a service and parking lot area. So this could be a place for everyone to park during times when they're going to the park or anything like that, but also possibly widening the road a bit on the top side, just so those cars dropping their kids off at school can have a little more room, because sometimes it could get a little crowded and nobody wants traffic. You then have the memorial entrance, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. We have the basketball courts already, but emphasizing it by putting some more seating and then the 2 regulation size basketball courts. We then have some outdoor seating. I thought y'all could just sit, relax, read a book. I was thinking about a pond area with an additional entrance based on if we could get an easement, where we can, how we can do that. I would have the storm shelter located central, so it's easy to get to in a quick moment, but also located close to the service parking lot as well. I would then have a play area for just some kids, whether it's a playground. There are some accessible equipment you can use as well. Having a pickleball court, which I know is not on a priority, but it's something that could bring a lot of people to Eupora as well as a lot of revenue. It could be really good. Having just a large green space for people to lay a blanket out, relax, just walk around, bring their animals. Also, I was thinking about easements again. If we could add another entrance here, having a pavilion with a picnic area and have that as like a second entrance, such as one of the parks we went to, as well as an enclosed pool area, which I've thought about and I have some concept imagery for, and then some more seating. Next, you come over to the concepts. Some are from Pinterest, some are from AI, and I did do 2 hand sketches, which I could show y'all closer up a little later. I picked a colorful color scheme, thinking about what would interest the kids a lot, especially being so close to an elementary school. It is so important that they want to go, and we know kids love color. I also thought about what would y'all want to see in the park, what would be fun, what would be good for the town itself. I thought about different ways we can have some memorial and historic aspects in there. There's also some fun seating, accessible equipment, and just some pool areas, different ways to do some signage throughout. And I do have my 2 sketches of what I think the memorial entrance could be. This first one, on y'all's left, my right, would be this. First, you would park and walk through a small building that you could still have bathrooms, multi-purpose spaces in, but having on the left-hand side a memorial wall, like a mural, which the town can help paint, y'all can help paint, just something to get everyone involved, the local artists. On the right side of things, having a glass encased shelving where we could put some historic things, like things from the barber shop or just a football helmet from the schools, something to tie in the town. And then as well, walking through, to where you would have possibly just a little pergola moment. And I was thinking the Brantleys, Mr. and Mrs. Brantley, sitting down on a bench in bronze statues with benches around it so people could go sit with them, take a picture, and just take in the beauty of this historic park. And obviously, we have to back everything up with a little bit of research. There's always 3 steps of sustainability when it comes to thinking about it: ecological, economical, and social. So I wanted to do a little case study on 3 different parks that hit those notes. First is the International Play Space in Beverly Park. It is in Knoxville, Tennessee. This park utilizes a lot of different exercise equipment, and they use different park equipment, and it's really good because it is something that gets a lot of the youth to talk to the older generations of their city. And that's good because it shows in studies that children with more contact with adults tend to do better cognitively and learn a little bit quicker. And it's really good for the older community because there is a lot of low tension exercise equipment. So if they're in rehab or they just want to get out of the house, they can. And that's something we can integrate as well with a picture of a 2-person swing, so it is accessible. And then this is a park in China, and they are very ecologically sound. They have many wetland plants as they get a lot of floods and storms, and it holds about 29,500 cubic yards of flood water. They also raised all their walkways, and people, their zones above water lines, just so if it does flood, it is still accessible and safe for all. And last we have the Beltline in Adair Park in Atlanta, Georgia. This is a little bit larger of a site, but it has some walking trails, it has a multitude of parks, as well as some shopping, which is really good because it has brought over $500 million in economic development to the area. There are Black-owned businesses that have increased foot traffic, which would be amazing for the city of Bucora, as well as just they have a new mixed income, they have housing, anti-displacement funds, and I think this is all research that we can add into our development of this park to just make it something that is well organized and wanted by the community. So, but thank y'all so much, and now the floor will be open to some questions. All right.